The most glaring fault of the entire logic that Rameshwar expressed to me about this event was in regards to the very basis of his view regarding Prabhupada's request. All of Rameshwar's calculations, all of his decisions, all of his actions on this event were 100% based on one single assumption: that if devotees had tried to fulfill Srila Prabhupada's loving request, that it would have resulted in the total destruction of ISKCON. That assumption would mean that Srila Prabhupada's request was foolish, that his divine grace lacked the higher intelligence or even the common sense to know this. It was this assumption that if Prabhupada's request was fulfilled, it would totally destroy ISKCON, which fueled all the other decisions and actions that he and the other GBC men took regarding this issue. The problem with all of his reasoning, justification, was that this assumption would mean that Srila Prabhupada's request was actually very foolish and that he lacked the intelligence to know this. Well, Rameshwar possessed far superior intelligence than that of Srila Prabhupada, because he was able to understand just how foolish Prabhupada's request really was. The reality is that the very basis of this mindset was that he was convinced that he knew better than Srila Prabhupada. This is the foundation that drove all his other thinking, decisions, actions, and such mindset would not have been limited to only this one event. But the same exact mindset would also have influenced he and the other leading GBC men to make equally wrong and damning conclusions on other important issues during that same period of time. Rameshwar didn't realize it at the time, but the underlying premise for such a mindset was that he not only lacked faith in the words of his spiritual master, but he was seeing Srila Prabhupada as even less than that of an ordinary man. I'm not saying that Rameshwar and all the other GBC men involved overtly thought like this, but these are the ramifications of their line of thinking. Obviously, the problem was, what if Rameshwar's mental assumption was wrong? What if the premise of his calculation was just totally off? What if Srila Prabhupada was not lacking in intelligence? What if his request wasn't foolish at all? What if fulfilling Srila Prabhupada's request would not have resulted in the destruction of ISKCON? That would mean that all the decisions, the judgments, and especially the actions that he and the other GBC members had taken, all of that would have not just been completely wrong, but would have been outright offensive and fallen. Which is, unfortunately for them and for ISKCON itself and for Srila Prabhupada, what actually transpired. The very basis of their assumption was totally wrong. This is the classic case of how twisted the overly intelligent mind works. But as I pointed out, the real underlying cause for such faulty thinking and rationalization was that Rameshwar no longer had full faith in the words of his spiritual master. And he had succumbed to taking Srila Prabhupada to be an ordinary man who made less than ordinary and foolish requests. Due to this, he was convinced that he knew better than his spiritual master what was needed. The only place where such logic makes any sense at all is within the minds of those who want to lord it over others, because the actions they took were their way of trying to lord it over even their own spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, by denying him his personal request. As I sat hearing all of this back in November of 1977, these were the realizations and thoughts that were vibrating in my mind. To me, I saw it for what it really was. A big pile of smelly BS? No, not S, but a big pile of smelly BD. Bull dung.
Instead of brain substance, there is cow dung.
Jaya Srila Prabhupada. That is exactly what I thought of Rameshwar's mind back in 1977 as well. Actually, bull dung doesn't smell bad. This stunk more like HM, horse manure.
Your brain, this skull is filled up with cow dung. There is no brain substance.